She was changing clothes. CEO accidentally came in and fell in love with her at first sight. Hi, my beautiful story family. Welcome to Mr. Peter Stories. Before we begin, let me take a moment to pray for you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for my amazing reader. Please bless them, guide them, and fill their hearts with peace, strength, and love. Let them feel your presence as they journey through life. Amen. Now, I want to share something from my heart. I work 16 to 18 hours a day creating these stories for you. It's a labor of love, and knowing you're here makes it all worthwhile. But lately I've felt a little discouraged. Many of you say you enjoy my stories, but only a few take a moment to leave a comment. Your comments mean everything to me. They let me know you're here, that my work matters, and that we're truly connected as a family. Whether it's a simple thank you, your thoughts on the story, or suggestions for improvement, I'd love to hear from you. You are my family, and your voice matters. Thank you for being here. Now let's dive into today's story. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Industries' executive floor, casting long shadows across the pristine marble floors. For Alitzel Blessing, this should have been a day of triumph, her first day as the newly appointed junior marketing coordinator. Instead, she found herself ducking into what she thought was an unused conference room, her silk blouse stained with coffee and her cheeks burning with embarrassment. The prestigious Sterling Industries occupied the top 10 floors of Manhattan's most iconic skyscraper, and Alitzel had spent weeks preparing for this moment. She'd chosen her outfit with meticulous care. A cream silk blouse that had cost a month's rent, a pencil skirt that whispered sophistication, and heels that made her feel invincible. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The morning had started perfectly. She'd arrived early, her portfolio tucked under her arm, her long dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. The security guard had smiled warmly as he handed her the temporary access card, and the elevator had whisked her up to the 45th floor without a single stop. Then came the coffee cart incident. She'd been waiting patiently in line at the building's exclusive coffee shop, mentally rehearsing her introduction to her new team, when a harried intern had backed into her, sending a full cup of scalding caramel macchiato cascading down her front. The intern's horrified apologies still rang in her ears as she'd fled, clutching her emergency backup blouse. Thank goodness for her mother's insistence on always being prepared. Now, standing in what she assumed was a private conference room, Alitzel tried to calm her racing heart. The room was impressive, with its mahogany table and leather chairs, but most importantly, it appeared empty. A large mirror hung on one wall, probably for practicing presentations, she thought, and it would have to serve as her makeshift dressing room. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unbuttoned the ruined blouse. The coffee hadn't burned her, thank goodness, but the silk was definitely beyond salvation. She'd just slipped it off her shoulders, standing in her delicate lace camisole, when the impossible happened. The door opened. Time seemed to slow down as Alitzel watched in horror through the mirror's reflection. A man stood in the doorway, tall and imposing, in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Their eyes met in the mirror, and for a moment, neither moved. She noticed, absurdly, that his eyes were an unusual shade of grey, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. "Get out!" she shrieked, grabbing her backup blouse and holding it against her chest. Her voice echoed off the room's expensive wallpaper, sharp with panic and indignation. But he didn't move. Instead, he stood there, one hand still on the door handle, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Was that amusement flickering in those grey eyes? The thought only fueled her anger. "I'm so sorry, he began, his voice deep and rich, with an accent that hinted at European education. But Alitzel wasn't interested in apologies or explanations. Her hand found the nearest object, a heavy crystal stapler. and she hurled it at him with surprising accuracy. He ducked, the stapler missing his head by inches and crashing into the doorframe behind him. Rather than looking angry, a smile played at the corners of his mouth, transforming his aristocratic features into something altogether more dangerous. The smile made him look younger, more approachable, and infinitely more handsome, observations that only increased Alitzel's mortification. "If you don't leave right this second," she threatened, reaching for a hole punch this time, "I swear I'll—" "This is my private conference room," he interrupted, still maddeningly calm. He made no move to leave, though he did take a prudent step back from the door, though I have to say it's never been quite this interesting before. Alitzel felt the blood drain from her face. His private conference room? The pieces started falling into place. The more luxurious furniture, the original artwork on the walls, the spectacular view of Central Park. This wasn't just any conference room, this had to be part of the executive suite. I thought, she stammered, her earlier bravado deserting her. The hole punch slipped from her nerveless fingers, thudding softly into the plush carpet. "Clearly," he said, and now he was definitely smiling, his eyes crinkling at the corners in a way that transformed his whole face. "Though I have to admire your aim with that stapler. Do you often assault executives on your first day?" First day. The words hit her like a bucket of ice water. This was her first day at Sterling Industries, and she'd just thrown office supplies at someone who was clearly high up in the company hierarchy. Her dream job, the position she'd competed against hundreds of other applicants to win, was about to evaporate before she'd even made it to orientation. "I'm so sorry," she breathed, mortification replacing anger. "I didn't realize the coffee and my blouse, and I just needed somewhere private." She was babbling, she knew, but couldn't seem to stop. He held up a hand, cutting off her stream of apologies. "Coffee emergencies are serious business," he said, his tone gentler now. "Though perhaps next time, try the ladies' room. Less chance of running into wandering executives there." A hysterical laugh bubbled up in her throat, but she swallowed it down. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a nightmare. Soon she'd wake up in her apartment, and it would be morning again, and she could start this day over. But no, this was real. The cool air conditioning on her bare shoulders was real. The amused grey eyes watching her were real. The ruined silk blouse draped over a leather chair was real. "I should go," she said quickly, gathering her things with trembling hands. "I'm already late for orientation, and I need to—" "Orientation doesn't start for another 30 minutes, he interrupted smoothly. "Plenty of time to change your blouse. I'll step out and make sure no one else wanders in." Before she could respond, he turned and left, closing the door quietly behind him. Alitzel stared at the closed door for a long moment, her heart pounding so hard she was sure it must be audible throughout the entire building. Who was he? She hadn't caught his name, hadn't even thought to ask. Someone important, clearly. This floor was restricted to senior executives. The thought made her stomach churn. Her mother had always told her to make a good first impression, but this was something else entirely. With shaking fingers, she quickly changed into her backup blouse, a simple white cotton that suddenly seemed hopelessly inadequate for the executive floor of Sterling Industries. She smoothed her hair, checked her makeup for any signs of distress, and tried to gather the tattered remains of her dignity. When she opened the door, she half expected him to be gone. Instead, he was leaning against the wall opposite, typing something on his phone. He looked up as she emerged, and that dangerous smile returned. "Better?" he asked, pocketing his phone. "Much," she managed, clutching her ruined blouse like a shield. "Thank you for understanding. And I'm truly sorry about the stapler." "I'm not," he said, pushing off from the wall with casual grace. It's the most entertaining start to a Monday I've had in years. Though I should warn you, the CFO on the 44th floor keeps his office stocked with paperweights. Much more effective than staplers if you're planning on making this a habit. Despite herself, Alitzel felt her lips twitch. There was something about him, a warmth behind the expensive suit and prestigious position, a playfulness in those storm-grey eyes that made it hard to maintain her embarrassment. "I'll keep that in mind," she said, surprised to find herself actually smiling, "though I'm hoping to avoid any more impromptu weapon selections during my time here." "Pity," he murmured, and something in his tone made her cheeks warm again, for entirely different reasons this time. "The orientation room is down the hall to the left, by the way. Try not to terrorize any more executives before you get there." With that, he turned and walked away, his shoes silent on the thick carpet. Alitzel watched him go, unable to shake the feeling that something momentous had just happened, something that would change the course of her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. She glanced down at her temporary access card, then at the retreating figure of the mysterious executive. First impressions might matter, her mother had always said, but sometimes it was the unplanned moments, the coffee, spills and staplers and chance encounters that truly shaped our destinies. Straightening her shoulders, Alitzel headed toward the orientation room, unaware that the man she'd just assaulted with office supplies was none other than Ashwell Prince, CEO of Sterling Industries, and that he was already making plans to ensure their paths would cross again. Many times. The morning sun continued to stream through the windows, but now it seemed to hold a promise of something new, something unexpected, something that felt remarkably like destiny. As she walked down the hallway, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor, Alitzel couldn't shake the memory of those storm-grey eyes and that dangerous smile. She didn't know it yet, but her life had just changed forever, all because of a spilled coffee and a crystal stapler. The day was just beginning, and already it had taken a turn she could never have anticipated. But isn't that how all the best stories start, with an unexpected encounter, a moment of chaos, and the faintest whisper of possibility in the air? For Alitzel Blessing, this was more than just her first day at a new job. This was the first page of a story she didn't yet know she was part of, a story of pride and prejudice, of assumptions and revelations, of love found in the most unexpected places. And somewhere on the executive floor, Ashwell Prince sat in his office, touching the small nick in his doorframe where the stapler had hit, and smiled. Chapter 2. Pride and Prejudice. 3 days had passed since the conference room incident, and Alitzel had almost convinced herself it was behind her. She'd thrown herself into orientation, memorizing company policies and procedures with the same determination that had earned her top honors at business school. Her temporary desk in the marketing department had become a fortress of spreadsheets and market analysis reports, each one a brick in the wall she was building between herself and that mortifying morning. Then came the email. "Congratulations on your promotion to marketing director, effective immediately." Alitzel stared at her screen, coffee cup frozen halfway to her lips. This had to be a mistake. She'd been hired as a junior coordinator, the lowest rung on the corporate ladder. Marketing director was 5 levels above her current position, a jump that typically took years to achieve. "Is this some kind of joke?" she muttered, scanning the email for signs of a prank. But no, there was the official Sterling Industries letterhead, the HR department's signature block, and CC'd on the email was none other than A. Prince, CEO. The coffee cup clattered against her desk as reality hit her. A prince. Ashwell Prince. The man from the conference room, the one she'd assaulted with office supplies, wasn't just any executive. He was the CEO. Her phone rang, making her jump. "Ms. Blessing," came the smooth voice of Regina, the executive floor's secretary. Mr. Prince would like to see you in his office, immediately. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like a journey to the gallows. Alitzel's reflection in the polished doors showed a woman she barely recognized, pale-faced, wide-eyed, but still standing straight. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Never let them see you sweat, Mijita." Regina's desk sat like a gatekeeping sentinel outside the CEO's office. The older woman barely glanced up from her computer as Alitzel approached. "Go right in," she said, her manicured fingers never pausing their steady typing. "He's expecting you." Ashwell Prince's office was exactly what you'd expect from a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and somehow nothing like it at all. The expected elements were there: the massive desk, the wall of windows overlooking Manhattan, the carefully chosen art pieces that probably cost more than her yearly salary. But there were unexpected touches too. A worn paperback of Pablo Neruda's poetry on the corner of his desk, a slightly crooked photograph of what looked like a rescue dog, a coffee mug with a chip in its rim. He stood as she entered, and Alitzel felt her breath catch. In the harsh morning light of the conference room, he'd been handsome in an intimidating way. Here, backlit by the midday sun, he was something else entirely. His suit jacket was off, sleeve rolled up to reveal strong forearms, and that dangerous smile was playing at his lips again. "Ms. Blessing," he said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs in front of his desk. "Thank you for coming up. No weapons on you today, I hope." "Mr. Prince," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "About that email." "Ah, yes, your promotion." He sat back down, leaning forward slightly. "Is there a problem?" "A problem?" She almost laughed. "Sir, I've been here for 3 days. I was hired as a junior coordinator. This has to be a mistake." "I don't make mistakes, Ms. Blessing." His grey eyes held hers, challenging. "I've reviewed your work from the past 3 days. 15 pages of analysis on our current market position, 3 proposals for revamping our social media strategy, and a rather brilliant critique of our latest advertising campaign. Tell me, do you always work until midnight on your first week?" Alitzel felt her cheeks warm. She'd hoped no one had noticed her late hours. "I like to be thorough." "You like to be exceptional," he corrected. "Your resume was impressive enough. Top of your class at Columbia Business School, innovative thesis on digital marketing transformation, glowing recommendations, but it's what you've done in just 3 days that caught my attention." "So this isn't about—" She gestured vaguely, meaning the conference room incident. His smile widened slightly. "You think I'm promoting you because you threw a stapler at me? I'm not quite that masochistic, Ms. Blessing. Though I have to admit, your spirit that morning was refreshing." Something in his tone made her skin tingle. She shifted in her chair, trying to maintain her professional composure. "It's too big a jump," she said firmly. "People will talk." "People always talk." He waved a hand dismissively. "Let them. Sterling Industries didn't become what it is by following conventional wisdom. We see talent. We nurture it. You have exceptional potential, Ms. Blessing. The only question is, are you brave enough to prove me right?" It was a challenge, wrapped in a compliment, delivered with that same enigmatic smile that had been haunting her thoughts for 3 days. Alitzel felt something spark inside her. That same fire that had driven her through sleepless nights at business school, that had pushed her to apply for positions others said were out of her reach. "When do I start?" she asked. His smile turned triumphant. "You already have. Your new office is being prepared on this floor. You'll be working directly with me on our global marketing strategy." Working directly with him. The word sent a shiver down her spine, equal parts excitement and trepidation. "And if I fail?" "You won't." The certainty in his voice was almost hypnotic. "But if you're worried about nepotism accusations, don't be. This promotion comes with a 6-month probationary period. Prove yourself and the position becomes permanent. Fall short and you'll return to your original role. Fair enough? It was more than fair, and they both knew it. This was an opportunity beyond her wildest dreams, handed to her on a silver platter. The rational part of her brain screamed that it was too good to be true, that there had to be a catch. But looking into those storm-grey eyes, Alitzel felt something else, a certainty that matched his own. She could do this. She would do this. "I accept," she said, holding out her hand. He took it, his grip firm and warm. The touch sent electricity racing up her arm, and she quickly pulled away. If he noticed her reaction, he didn't show it. "Excellent. Regina will show you to your new office. We have a board meeting at 2. I'd like you to present your social media strategy proposals." "Today?" Alitzel's eyes widened. "But I haven't prepared." "You've been preparing for 3 days," he interrupted smoothly. "Those proposals are solid. All you need is the confidence to present them." He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Oh, and Ms. Blessing, my office has an excellent supply of staplers, should you feel the need to throw things again." She couldn't help it. She laughed. The sound seemed to surprise them both, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes that had nothing to do with professional appreciation. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, presentations, and late-night strategy sessions. Alitzel threw herself into her new role with characteristic determination, refusing to give the gossips any ammunition. Yes, there were whispers about her meteoric rise, speculation about her relationship with the CEO. But she silenced them with results, successful campaigns, innovative strategies, and a dedication that often had her arriving before dawn and leaving long after sunset. What she couldn't silence were her own thoughts, especially when Ashwell would appear in her office doorway, jacket off and tie loosened, asking her opinion on some new initiative. He had a habit of perching on the edge of her desk, too close for comfort, his cologne teasing her senses as they pored over reports together. "Ms. Blessing, about the quarterly report," became his favorite opening line. Though they both knew the reports were always impeccable, sometimes he'd bring coffee, her exact order, though she never remembered telling him how she took it. Sometimes he'd arrive with takeout when she worked late, claiming he'd accidentally ordered too much. She tried to maintain professional distance, to remind herself that he was her boss, that this opportunity was too precious to risk. But there were moments. Catching him watching her, during meetings, the way his hand would brush hers when passing documents, the long conversations that strayed far from business into literature, art, dreams, that made her heart betray her with its quickened pace. For his part, Ashwell found himself inventing more and more reasons to seek her out. Her office became his favorite detour, her insights his most valued counsel. He told himself it was purely professional appreciation. She was brilliant, dedicated, exactly what Sterling Industries needed. But then she'd laugh at one of his terrible jokes, or bite her lip in concentration while reviewing a proposal, or tuck that stubborn strand of hair behind her ear, and he'd forget every rational argument he'd made to himself about professional boundaries. The tension between them grew, subtle but undeniable. Every meeting became a dance of almost touches and lingering glances. Every late-night working session felt charged with unspoken possibilities. They were professionals, maintaining careful distance. But beneath the surface, something was building, something neither of them was quite ready to acknowledge. Until the day everything changed, when a simple coffee invitation would shatter their carefully maintained facade and set them on a path neither had anticipated. But that was still to come, and for now they maintained their delicate balance of attraction and denial, each pretending not to notice how the other's presence made the world shift ever so slightly on its axis. The chapter of their story was still being written, in coffee cups left on desks, in midnight meetings that lasted longer than necessary, in the way they both found reasons to stay late at the office, gravitating toward each other like planets caught in each other's orbit. Pride kept them apart, but something stronger was drawing them together, one stolen glance at a time. Chapter 3. Breaking Down Walls, just to discuss the Henderson account. Alitzel repeated these words to herself like a mantra as she stood in front of Sterling Industries on a crisp Saturday morning. She'd spent an hour choosing her outfit, a casual cream sweater and dark jeans that looked effortlessly elegant while hiding how much thought she'd put into appearing effortlessly elegant. The invitation had come at the end of a particularly intense board meeting. She'd successfully defended her marketing strategy against some of the company's most ruthless critics, earning approving nods from even the most skeptical board members. Ashwell had caught her arm as she left the conference room. "That was brilliant," he'd said, his storm-grey eyes alight with admiration. "The way you handled Johnson's objections. I've never seen anyone stand their ground against him so effectively." She'd tried to brush it off, but he persisted. "Have coffee with me tomorrow? There's a place around the corner that serves the best Colombian roast. We can discuss the Henderson account." Now, standing outside the suggested cafe, Alitzel wondered if she was making a huge mistake. Office rumors had already started. Whispers about how quickly she'd risen to marketing director, speculation about her frequent meetings with the CEO. A coffee date, even one ostensibly about work, would only fuel the gossip. But then Ashwell appeared, and all thoughts of office politics evaporated. He looked devastatingly handsome in casual clothes, dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made his eyes look almost silver. His usually perfectly styled hair was slightly tousled, giving him a boyish charm that made her heart skip. "I was worried you wouldn't come," he admitted, holding the door open for her. The cafe, Luna's Corner, was everything a Manhattan hideaway should be: exposed brick walls, vintage lighting, and the rich aroma of coffee filling the air. They settled into a corner table, and Ashwell signaled the barista. "I took the liberty of ordering for you caramel macchiato with an extra shot and almond milk." "How did you know my order?" She tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach at this evidence that he'd been paying attention. His lips quirked into that now familiar half-smile. "I notice things, like how you take your coffee, or how you bite your lip when you're concentrating, or how your eyes light up when you're defending an idea you believe in." The intensity of his gaze made her cheeks warm. "Mr. Prince—" "Ashwell," he corrected gently. "We're not in the office, and I'd like to just be Ashwell with you, if that's okay." The request felt intimate, meaningful. "Ashwell," she tested the name, watching his eyes darken slightly as it left her lips. "The Henderson account. Actually," he looked slightly sheepish, "I have a confession. The Henderson account is doing fine. I wanted to spend time with you, outside the office, away from titles and meetings and corporate politics." The admission hung between them, heavy with possibility. Alitzel knew she should leave, maintain professional boundaries, protect the career she'd worked so hard to build. Instead, she found herself saying, "Tell me something about yourself. Something that isn't in the company biography." His smile was brilliant. "I wanted to be a detective when I was 8. Made my own business cards with crayons and everything." This unexpected revelation startled a laugh from her. "Really? What kind of cases did you solve?" "My first big break was finding Mrs. Peterson's missing cat. Turned out it was just sleeping in her garage the whole time, but she paid me in chocolate chip cookies, so I considered it a success." They fell into easy conversation after that. She told him about growing up in Mexico, about her grandmother, who taught her to make tamales and handle difficult men with equal skill. He shared stories about his rescue dog, Max, and his secret passion for poetry. One coffee turned into two, then into shared pastries and stories that had nothing to do with marketing strategies or business plans. They discovered a mutual love for Gabriel Garcia Marquez, debated the merits of different Batman actors, and found themselves sharing pieces of their hearts they'd kept carefully guarded. My father died when I was in college. Alitzel found herself saying, surprising herself with the confession. He always wanted me to run my own company someday. Said I had too much fire to work for someone else forever. Ashwell reached across the table, taking her hand. His thumb traced patterns on her palm that sent shivers up her arm. He was right. You're extraordinary, Alitzel. The way you think, the way you fight for your ideas. It's captivating. The touch of his hand, the warmth in his voice. It should have felt inappropriate, crossing too many professional lines. Instead, it felt like coming home. We shouldn't be doing this, she whispered, but she didn't pull her hand away. Probably not, he agreed, his eyes never leaving hers. But I can't help how I feel when I'm with you, how everything else fades away, how my heart races when you walk into a room, how I find myself inventing reasons to see you. The extra meetings, she asked, remembering all the times he'd appeared in her office with trivial questions. All excuses, he admitted. Though watching you demolish Stevens's marketing proposal last week was a genuine pleasure. She laughed, but there was an undercurrent of tension now. Awareness of how close they were sitting, how his thumb hadn't stopped its maddening circles on her palm. Walk with me, he suggested when they'd finished their coffee. It's a beautiful day, and I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. They wandered through Central Park, talking about everything and nothing. The autumn air was crisp, leaves dancing around their feet as they walked close enough for their shoulders to brush occasionally. Each contact sent sparks through her body. Near the Bethesda fountain, Ashwell stopped walking, turning to face her. I know this is complicated, he said softly. I'm your boss. There are professional considerations, corporate policies. But Alitzel, I'm falling for you. Hard and fast and completely, and I hope you feel it too. Her heart thundered in her chest. Ashwell. Tell me to stop, he whispered, stepping closer. Tell me this is too risky, too complicated, too soon. Tell me you don't lie awake thinking about me the way I think about you. But she couldn't lie, not when her heart was trying to beat its way out of her chest, not when he was looking at her like she held all the answers to questions he'd never thought to ask. I feel it too, she admitted, watching his eyes darken. God help me, I do. He moved slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she was done running. When his lips finally met hers, the world didn't stop. It expanded, exploded, rearranged itself into something new and wonderful and terrifying. The kiss was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. But then her hands found their way into his hair, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat spiraling through her body. The kiss deepened, became something hungry and desperate and perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against hers. We just violated about 15 company policies, he murmured. Worth it, she whispered back, and felt his smile against her lips before he kissed her again. The next few months were a delicate dance of professional restraint and hidden passion. During office hours, they maintained careful distance, she the brilliant marketing director, he the respected CEO. But after hours, stolen moments in his office and secret dates became their sweet addiction. They had rules. No personal discussions during business hours, no special treatment, no obvious favoritism. But sometimes Ashwell would catch her eye during meetings, and she'd see a flash of the man who kissed her senseless in Central Park. Sometimes their hands would brush when passing documents, and the contact would burn like electricity. Their relationship deepened beyond physical attraction. Ashwell challenged her intellectually, supported her ideas while pushing her to refine them further. Alitzel found herself sharing dreams she'd never voiced aloud. Her vision for revolutionizing digital marketing, her secret desire to start her own company someday. "You could do it," he told her one night as they shared takeout in his office, long after everyone else had gone home. "You have the talent, the drive. You could build something extraordinary." "You'd help your competition," she teased. He pulled her into his lap, nuzzling her neck. "I'd help you achieve anything you wanted. Your success is beautiful to watch." They weren't just falling in love, they were building something profound, a partnership of minds and hearts that transcended their professional roles. Every shared joke, every late-night discussion, every stolen kiss added another layer to their connection. But with deepening feelings came increasing risks. The office whispers grew louder, and maintaining professional distance became harder. They both knew they were approaching a crossroads. Their relationship would have to become either public or end. Neither was ready to let go, but neither was ready to face the scrutiny going public would bring. So they continued their dance, stealing moments of joy while they could, building memories that would have to sustain them if their world came crashing down. For now, though, they had this: stolen kisses in empty conference rooms, hands clasped under meeting tables, love growing stronger with each passing day. Whatever storms lay ahead, they faced them with hearts intertwined and hope burning bright as the stars. Chapter 4. Dancing in the Rain. 2 weeks had passed since that first coffee date, and Sterling Industries' executive floor had become a delicate dance of professional restraint and hidden glances. During office hours, Alitzel and Ashwell maintained their careful distance. She was still the brilliant marketing director, he the respected CEO. But after hours, stolen moments in his office and secret dinner dates had become their sweet addiction. That Thursday evening found them walking through Central Park after a late board meeting. The spring air was heavy with the promise of rain, but neither seemed inclined to end their time together just yet. "I still can't believe you prefer modern literature to the classics," Ashwell said, his hand brushing against hers as they walked. The contact, though brief, sent shivers through her body. "There's something timeless about the way Austen or Bronte captured human nature." Alitzel laughed, the sound carrying across the nearly empty park. "And there's something powerful about how modern authors challenge those very conventions. Take Junot Diaz, for example, his way of blending languages and cultures, breaking traditional narrative structures." "Ah, but isn't there romance in tradition?" Ashwell stopped walking, turning to face her. In the gathering dusk, his grey eyes seemed to hold storms. The carefully worded letters, the meaningful glances across crowded rooms, the slow build of tension until the sky chose that moment to open up, releasing a sudden downpour that had them both gasping in surprise. Instead of running for cover like the few other park visitors, they stood frozen, staring at each other as the rain soaked through their clothes. Ashwell's white shirt was becoming translucent, clinging to his broad shoulders. Water dripped from his dark hair, running down his face in rivulets. He'd never looked more beautiful to her. "Quick, under here!" he laughed, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward a massive oak tree. Its thick canopy offered some shelter, though they were already thoroughly drenched. Alitzel's heart was racing, and not from the short run. Raindrops clung to Ashwell's eyelashes, and his usual perfectly composed demeanor had given way to something more natural, more raw. He reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face, his touch lingering on her cheek. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he whispered, the words almost lost in the sound of rain against leaves. But Alitzel heard them, felt them resonate in her very soul. Time seemed to stop. The city around them faded away. The distant traffic, the rain, the occasional thunder, all became background noise to the beating of their hearts. Alitzel rose on her tiptoes, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that tasted of rain and destiny. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. She tangled her fingers in his wet hair, remembering how she'd once thrown a stapler at this man, never imagining she'd end up here, in his arms, feeling like she'd finally found home. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, Ashwell rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to tell you that for weeks," he admitted. "I think I started falling that first day, when you nearly took my head off with office supplies." Alitzel laughed softly. "Is that your type? Women who assault you with staplers?" "No," he said seriously, though his eyes danced with amusement. "My type is brilliant, fierce women who know their worth, who challenge me to be better, who make me forget every rational thought when they walk into a room." The rain continued to fall around them, but neither noticed any more. They were lost in their own world, where only this moment mattered. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," Alitzel whispered against his lips, "and it terrifies me." "Why?" His hands tightened slightly on her waist. "Because this feels too perfect. Because you're the CEO, and I'm the most capable, intelligent woman I've ever met," he interrupted, "who earned her position through sheer brilliance and dedication, who makes me laugh, makes me think, makes me want to be worthy of her." She kissed him again, pouring all her emotions into it. Her fears, her hopes, her growing love for this man who saw her so clearly. The rain had soaked through their clothes, but they were warm in each other's arms, protected by their ancient oak tree and the magic of the moment. "Dance with me," Ashwell suddenly said, pulling back slightly. Alitzel looked at him in disbelief. "Here? Now? In the rain? Why not?" His smile was infectious. "No one's around. The rain's our music. And I've always wanted to dance in the rain with a beautiful woman who throws office supplies at me." Before she could protest, he had taken her hand, spinning her out and then back into his arms. They moved together under the oak tree, creating their own rhythm to the symphony of rainfall. Alitzel couldn't help but laugh as he twirled her, water flying from her hair. "You're crazy," she said fondly as he dipped her. "About you?" "Absolutely." He brought her back up, holding her close. "I know this complicates things at work. I know people might talk. But Alitzel, mi amor, I don't care. You're worth every complication, every whispered word, every raised eyebrow." The sincerity in his voice made her heart swell. Here was one of the most powerful men in New York, dancing with her in the rain, looking at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. "Besides," he added with a mischievous grin, "I've already survived one assault with office supplies. I think I can handle a few gossips." She swatted his chest playfully, but he caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. The tender gesture made her breath catch. "Stay with me," he murmured against her knuckles. "Not just for this dance, not just for tonight. Stay with me for all the dances, all the arguments about literature, all the late-night conversations and early morning coffees." "Are you asking me to be your girlfriend, Mr. Prince?" she teased, though her heart was racing. "I'm asking you to be my everything, Ms. Blessing." His eyes were serious now, despite his smile, though I suppose girlfriend is a good place to start. The rain was beginning to ease, but they continued their slow dance under the oak tree. Alitzel laid her head on Ashwell's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to being my girlfriend, or yes to being my everything." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Yes to all of it. Yes to the dances and the arguments and the complications. Yes to falling in love with you, even though it scares me. Yes to everything." He tilted her chin up, kissing her with a tenderness that made her toes curl. When they finally parted, both were smiling like love-struck teenagers. "We should probably get out of these wet clothes," Alitzel said, suddenly aware of how thoroughly soaked they were. "My apartment's closer," Ashwell offered, then quickly added, "I have dry clothes you can borrow. No pressure, just—" She silenced him with another kiss. Lead the way, Mr. CEO. They walked hand in hand through the now gentle rain, neither caring about the curious glances from passers-by. They were in love, they were together, and for now that was all that mattered. Later, wrapped in one of Ashwell's soft sweaters and sipping hot tea on his couch, Alitzel would think about how sometimes the most perfect moments come unexpectedly, like sudden rain on a spring evening, like falling in love with your boss, like finding your heart's home in the arms of someone who loves you exactly as you are. The chapter of their story that began with a stapler and a coffee stain had led them here to this moment, to this love. And as Ashwell pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple, Alitzel knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, dancing in the rain if they had to. Chapter 5. Shadows of the Past. The Sterling Industries annual charity gala was in full swing, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel transformed into a glittering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast their warm glow over New York's elite as they mingled, the air filled with the soft strains of a string quartet and the gentle clink of champagne glasses. Alitzel stood near one of the towering floral arrangements, looking every inch the successful executive in a deep burgundy gown that hugged her curves before flowing elegantly to the floor. The past 2 months with Ashwell had been like a dream. Secret dates, stolen kisses in his office after hours, and a love that grew deeper with each passing day. They'd been careful at work, maintaining professional distance during business hours. But tonight was different. Tonight, they'd agreed to make their first public appearance as a couple. Ashwell had been pulled into a conversation with some board members when she'd arrived, but his eyes hadn't left her all evening, making her skin tingle with awareness. "You must be the famous Alitzel Blessing." The voice behind her was cultured, precise, with the kind of finishing school polish that spoke of old money and older prejudices. Alitzel turned to find herself facing a stunning woman in her early 30s, tall and elegant, in a designer gown that probably cost more than Alitzel's yearly salary. "I'm sorry. Have we met?" Alitzel asked, though something in the woman's calculating smile told her this wasn't a chance encounter. "Victoria Blackwood," the woman said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I'm surprised Ashwell hasn't mentioned me. We were engaged, you see, until quite recently, actually." The world seemed to tilt slightly on its axis. Engaged. The word echoed in Alitzel's mind as she automatically shook Victoria's hand, feeling the cold press of expensive rings against her palm. Recently. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. "Oh, yes." Victoria's smile was sharp as cut glass. "The engagement ended just a few months ago, right around the time you were hired, if I'm not mistaken. Such an interesting coincidence." Before Alitzel could respond, Victoria pulled her phone from her clutch, scrolling through it with practiced nonchalance. "You know, it's quite fascinating how history repeats itself. Did you know you're not the first employee Ashwell has taken a special interest in?" She turned the phone toward Alitzel, showing her a newspaper article dated 3 years ago. The headline made her stomach drop. "Sterling Industries CEO in sexual harassment scandal. Former employee claims coercion." "That's not possible," Alitzel said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Ashwell would never—" "Oh, darling." Victoria's laugh was like breaking glass. "You don't really think you're special, do you? This is what he does. Finds ambitious young women, promotes them rapidly, makes them feel chosen. Then when he's bored—" She made a dismissive gesture. "Well, let's just say your impressive rise to marketing director might look rather different in hindsight. You're lying." But even as she said it, doubts began to creep in. The sudden promotion, the coffee dates, the way he'd pursued her despite the professional complications. "Am I?" Victoria arched a perfect eyebrow. "Ask him about Singapore, 2019. Ask him about the board meeting where he promised to make Sarah Chen VP of Operations, right before she mysteriously resigned. Ask him about the settlement payments that don't appear in the company's public records. Alitzel's hands were trembling now. She set her champagne glass down before she could drop it. Why are you telling me this? Consider it a friendly warning from someone who's been where you are? Victoria's voice dripped with false sympathy. Ashwell Prince is charming, passionate, and utterly incapable of fidelity, whether to his fiancée or his ethics. I'd hate to see another bright young woman's career destroyed by his appetites. As if summoned by his name, Ashwell appeared through the crowd. He froze when he saw them together, his face draining of colour. "Victoria," he said, his voice tight. "I wasn't aware you were in New York." "Surprise," Victoria purred, leaning in to kiss his cheek. The gesture was possessive, marking territory. "I was just getting to know your latest protégé." The way she said the word made it sound dirty, making Alitzel's cheeks burn with shame. She looked at Ashwell, silently begging him to deny everything, to explain, but he seemed unable to meet her eyes. "Alitzel," he started, reaching for her, but she stepped back. "You never told me about her," she said quietly, "about any of it. Because it's not what you think." "What should I think, Ashwell?" Her voice was stronger now, anger replacing hurt. "About your ex-fiancée? About Sarah Chen? About Singapore?" He paled further at the mentions, confirming Victoria's words more effectively than any explanation could have. "I can explain everything, but not here. Not like this." "No," Alitzel said, gathering her dignity around her like armor. "I think here is perfect. After all, isn't this where you usually conduct your business, making promises to ambitious young women, making them feel special until—" "That's not fair," he protested, but she was already turning away. "Miss Blessing," Victoria called after her, that sharp smile still in place, "do give some thought to what we discussed. About those settlement papers." Alitzel didn't stop, didn't look back. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, accepting her coat from the attendant with steady hands. It wasn't until she was in the taxi that she allowed the first tear to fall. The city lights blurred as she headed home, her mind racing. Every moment with Ashwell, every touch, every kiss. Had it all been a carefully orchestrated seduction, part of a pattern she'd been too blind to see? Her phone buzzed repeatedly, Ashwell calling, then texting, "Please let me explain. It's not what you think. Victoria is lying. I love you." She turned the phone off. In her apartment, she kicked off her heels and went straight to her laptop. Her hands shook as she typed Ashwell Prince scandal into the search bar. The results made her feel sick. There it was, the article Victoria had shown her, along with others. Rumors of inappropriate relationships with employees, whispered accusations of favoritism, sudden resignations followed by generous severance packages. The headlines painted a damning picture. Sterling Industries faces multiple harassment claims. Rising star Sarah Chen leaves. Sterling under cloud of scandal. Prince empire built on broken promises. Some had been buried by Sterling's PR team, others dismissed as baseless accusations. But the pattern was clear, and suddenly Alitzel's own story seemed to fit perfectly into it. The chance meeting, the rapid promotion, the whirlwind romance. She spent the night reading, investigating, putting together pieces of a puzzle she'd never known existed. By dawn, her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep, but her resolve was firm. When her phone rang again, she finally answered. "Alitzel, thank God." Ashwell's voice was rough, as if he'd been up all night too. "Please, let me explain everything." "No need," she said, proud of how steady her voice was. "I've done my research. I understand perfectly now. Whatever you've read, whatever Victoria told you." "You never denied it," she interrupted. "When I asked about Sarah Chen, about Singapore, you never said it wasn't true." It's complicated, he sighed. Yes, there were accusations, but they were all... Save it. She took a deep breath. I'm sending you my resignation letter in an hour. I think it's best if we keep things professional from now on. Professional? He sounded wounded. Alitzel, I love you. What we have is real. Is it? She laughed bitterly. Or am I just the latest in a long line of ambitious women you've charmed? Tell me, did you use the same lines on Sarah, the same romantic gestures? Did you make her feel special too before she had to leave the company? That's not fair, he said again, but his voice was weak. No, what's not fair is making me fall in love with you while hiding all of this. What's not fair is letting me think I earned my position when everyone else probably assumes. She couldn't finish the sentence, the implication too painful. You did earn it, he insisted. Your work speaks for itself. I promoted you because you're brilliant, not because... I can't do this, she cut him off. I can't look at you and not wonder if everything was a lie. I can't walk through that office knowing what people must think. I can't. There was a long silence. When Ashwell spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. Please don't resign. The company needs you. I need... Goodbye, Mr. Prince, she said formally, and hung up. She spent the next hour crafting her resignation letter, keeping it professional and brief. No mention of their relationship, no hint of scandal. She would leave with her dignity intact, find another job, start fresh somewhere. Her success wouldn't be tainted by whispers and doubts. As she pressed send, another text from Ashwell came through. I never meant to hurt you. Everything I feel for you is real. Please, give me a chance to prove it. She deleted it without responding. The sun was rising over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Alitzel stood at her window, watching the city wake up, feeling her heart break with every beat. She loved him. God help her, she still loved him, but love wasn't enough when trust lay shattered on the ground like so much broken glass. Victoria's words echoed in her mind. I'd hate to see another bright young woman's career destroyed. Well, that wouldn't be her story. She was Alitzel Blessing, and she'd worked too hard, come too far, to let a man, any man, even one she loved, define her worth. She picked up her phone one last time, typing a final message to Ashwell. Congratulations on your success. I hope it was worth it. Then she blocked his number, turned off her phone, and began looking for apartments in Boston. It was time for a fresh start, away from Sterling Industries, away from scandal, away from the man who'd made her believe in fairy tales only to reveal himself as the villain of the piece. The dreams they'd shared, the future they'd planned, it all turned to ash in the morning light. But from these ashes, Alitzel promised herself, she would rise stronger, wiser, and alone. Chapter 6. Shattered Dreams. The Sterling Industries boardroom had always felt like a sanctuary to Alitzel, a place where her ideas took flight and her career soared. Now, 3 weeks after the disastrous charity gala, it felt more like an execution chamber. The morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows did nothing to warm the ice in her veins as she prepared for her final presentation. She'd given herself 1 month's notice, professional, proper, enough time to transition her projects and maintain her reputation. 3 weeks down, 1 to go. 3 weeks of avoiding Ashwell's desperate attempts to explain, of dodging concerned looks from colleagues, of pretending her heart wasn't shattering every time she heard his voice down the hallway. Today's board meeting was supposed to be her triumph. The marketing strategy she'd spent months developing was revolutionary. A complete digital transformation that would position Sterling Industries at the forefront of their industry for the next decade. Instead, it had become her swan song. Alitzel arrived early, needing the quiet to compose herself. Her charcoal grey suit was impeccable, her makeup perfect, her presentation materials organized with military precision. No one looking at her would guess she'd barely slept in weeks, that she cried herself to sleep every night, that her dreams were haunted by storm-grey eyes and broken promises. She was reviewing her notes when the door opened. Her heart stopped, then resumed at double speed as Ashwell walked in. He looked terrible. Designer suit perfectly pressed as always, but dark circles under his eyes betrayed his own sleepless nights. Their eyes met for a moment before she looked away. "Alitzel," he said softly, "please. We need to talk." "The board meeting starts in 20 minutes, Mr. Prince," she replied formally, proud of how steady her voice remained. "Any discussions should wait until after the presentation." "To hell with the presentation." His sudden vehemence made her jump. "You're leaving in a week, leaving the company, leaving New York, leaving me, and you won't even let me explain." "Explain what?" She finally looked at him, letting him see the pain and anger in her eyes. "How you forgot to mention your recent engagement. How you have a history of promoting women you're interested in. How there are multiple harassment claims buried in Sterling's legal files." "It's not that simple." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Victoria and I—" The door opened again, and board members began filing in. Ashwell fell silent, moving to his place at the head of the table. Alitzel straightened her shoulders, slipping on her professional mask-like armor. The presentation began smoothly. Alitzel was in her element, commanding the room's attention as she laid out her vision for Sterling's future. Graphs and projections flashed across the screens, each one representing countless hours of work and dedication. Then she saw it. On the second screen, mixed in with her market analysis data, was a familiar set of numbers. Too familiar. Her blood ran cold as she recognized portions of her strategy, ideas she'd developed months ago but hadn't yet presented, already implemented in Sterling's Asian markets. "As you can see," she continued automatically, her mind racing, "the projected growth in digital engagement." But she wasn't really seeing the slides anymore. She was seeing late nights in Ashwell's office, discussing her ideas over takeout. She was remembering how interested he'd been in her preliminary research, how he'd asked such specific questions about her implementation plans. How many of their intimate conversations had been mining sessions for her intellectual property. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. She faltered mid-sentence, her vision blurring slightly. When she looked at Ashwell, she found him staring at her with a mixture of guilt and desperation. He knew, he'd known all along. Somehow she made it through the rest of the presentation. The board members were enthusiastic, praising her vision while being completely unaware that parts of it were already in motion on the other side of the world. "Impressive work, Miss Blessing," one of the directors said, "though some elements seem to align remarkably well with our recent Asian initiatives." "Yes," she said, her voice arctic, "remarkable indeed." As the board members filed out, Ashwell tried to approach her again. "Alitzel, I can explain—" "Explain!" She laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. "Explain how you stole my ideas, how you used our relationship to access my work before it was ready for presentation? Or should we discuss how many other women's innovations you've appropriated?" "It wasn't like that." His face was anguished. "The Asian markets needed immediate implementation. Your strategy was brilliant, and I knew you'd understand." "Understand?" She was trembling now with rage or heartbreak or both. "Understand that while I was falling in love with you, you were using me? That every late-night discussion, every shared moment when I thought we were building something real, you were just—" "What?" "Gathering intelligence." "No!" He reached for her, but she stepped back. "Everything between us was real. Yes, I used some of your ideas, because they were brilliant, because they would work, because I'm in awe of your mind, but I never meant to hurt you. The road to hell," she said quietly, is paved with men's good intentions. She gathered her materials with shaking hands. The presentation that should have been her crowning achievement now felt tainted, corrupted by betrayal. "I'm not just accepting another job offer," she said, not looking at him. "I'm starting my own consulting firm in Boston, away from here, away from you, away from everything that makes me doubt myself. Alitzel, please, I've already spoken with legal about my intellectual property rights." She finally met his eyes, letting him see the full extent of her pain and determination. "Any further use of my strategies will result in immediate legal action. I suggest you find a way to explain to the board why the Asian initiatives will need to be restructured." His face went pale. "You'd sue Sterling Industries?" "No, Ashwell," she said softly. "I'd sue you, personally, for theft of intellectual property and breach of trust. How do you think that would look in the papers? Another scandal involving the CEO and a female employee." The words hit him like physical blows. She watched him struggle for words, seeing the moment he realized just how completely he'd destroyed what they had. "I love you," he said finally, his voice breaking. "No," she replied, gathering the last shreds of her dignity. "You loved what you could take from me, my ideas, my trust, my heart. Well, congratulations on your success. I hope it was worth it." She left the boardroom with her head high, tears burning behind her eyes, but refusing to fall. The click of her heels on the marble floor echoed like gunshots, each step taking her further from the man she'd loved, the dreams they'd shared, the future they'd planned. In her office, she found a single red rose on her desk, Ashwell's signature gesture. Next to it was a folder containing documentation of all the Asian market implementations, along with a note in his handwriting. "Full credit will be given. I never meant to steal your thunder. Please forgive me." She dropped the rose in the trash and sealed the folder in an envelope for her lawyer. That night, alone in her apartment, Alitzel finally allowed herself to break down. She cried for the love she'd lost, for the trust that had been shattered, for the woman who'd been naive enough to believe in fairy tales. But as the sun rose over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of possibility, she dried her tears and opened her laptop. She had a new company to build, a new life to create, a new future to forge, one that didn't depend on anyone else's validation or vision. The dreams she'd shared with Ashwell lay shattered around her like broken glass, but from those sharp edges she would build something stronger, something entirely her own. She'd trusted him with her heart and her ideas, and he'd betrayed both. But in doing so, he'd taught her the most valuable lesson of all. The only person she could truly rely on was herself. As she began typing up her business plan, her phone buzzed with a text from Ashwell. "I'll make this right, whatever it takes. I won't lose you." She deleted it without responding. Sometimes, she reflected, the most painful endings lead to the most powerful beginnings. And this was her beginning, not as someone's girlfriend or employee or protégé, but as her own woman, building her own empire from the ashes of betrayed trust and shattered dreams. Tomorrow, she would start looking at office spaces in Boston. Tonight, she would let herself mourn what was lost, but she would not let it break her. After all, she was a Litzel blessing, and she had a destiny to fulfill, with or without Ashwell Prince. Chapter 7. Separate Ways. The Boston skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alitzel's new office. 2 years had transformed Blessing Digital Consulting from a dream sketched in a coffee shop into a rising star in the digital marketing world. 20 employees now occupied the sleek space in downtown Boston, each one carefully chosen, none aware that their founder's greatest inspiration sat cooing in a portable crib in her private office. Luna, now 18 months old, was arranging blocks with the same focused expression Alitzel had seen countless times on Ashwell's face during board meetings. The similarity made her heart ache, even now, The discovery of her pregnancy had come 2 weeks after leaving New York. She'd been reviewing potential office spaces when the morning sickness hit, though she'd initially blamed it on stress. The positive pregnancy test had sent her world spinning on its axis once again. For days, she'd stared at her phone, Ashwell's number highlighted on the screen. Each time, she'd remember the betrayal, the stolen ideas, Victoria's smug revelations. Each time, she'd put the phone down, protecting not just her heart now, but the tiny life growing inside her. "Ms. Blessing?" Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The Johnson team is here for the presentation." Alitzel checked her reflection in the window. Crisp blazer, elegant slacks, not a hair out of place. No one would guess she'd been up since dawn with a teething toddler. "I'll take Luna to the nursery," her mother offered, appearing in the doorway. Rosa Blessing had moved from Mexico when Alitzel first learned of her pregnancy, bringing her strength and wisdom when they were needed most. "Gracias, Mama." Alitzel kissed Luna's dark curls before handing her over. "Be good for Abuela, mi Luna." The meeting went perfectly. They always did these days. Alitzel had built her reputation on innovative strategies and flawless execution. Each success felt like vindication, proof that she'd earned her position at Sterling through talent, not Ashwell's favor. But late at night, when Luna slept peacefully in her crib, Alitzel would sometimes allow herself to remember. The way Ashwell's eyes crinkled when he smiled, how he'd bring her coffee during late-night strategy sessions, the sound of his laugh during their secret dates in Central Park. The memories hurt most when Luna did something that echoed her father. The way she'd furrow her brow when concentrating, her analytical approach to everything, those storm-grey eyes that were pure Ashwell. "You should tell him," her mother said one evening, watching Luna methodically sort her toys by color. "He has a right to know his daughter." "He lost that right," Alitzel replied, but the words felt hollow. "Besides, he's probably back with Victoria by now." She tried not to follow Sterling Industries news, but some things were unavoidable in their industry. The company had thrived under Ashwell's leadership, expanding into new markets, innovating in ways that sometimes felt painfully familiar. She wondered if he still used her ideas, if he thought of her when implementing strategies they'd developed together late at night in his office. Luna's first word had been elephant. She'd seen one at the Boston Zoo and wouldn't stop pointing and saying it until Alitzel bought her a stuffed one. Now her collection of elephant toys rivaled the inventory of most gift shops. Like her father, Rosa had commented, always knowing exactly what she wants. The observation had made Alitzel cry that night, remembering how Ashwell had pursued her despite corporate policies and professional risks. He'd known what he wanted too, until Victoria revealed his pattern of pursuing ambitious employees. Building Blessing Digital had been her salvation during the pregnancy. Each client won, each strategy successfully implemented helped rebuild her confidence. She'd started small, working from home during her first trimester, taking video calls positioned carefully to hide her growing belly. By the time Luna was born, the company had 5 employees and a growing reputation. The birth itself had been both beautiful and heartbreaking, a full moon hanging low over Boston Harbor, her mother holding one hand while an empty space seemed to echo where Ashwell should have been. "She has his eyes," the nurse had said, and Alitzel had cried harder. Now, 2 years later, she was living the success her father had always dreamed for her. Blessing Digital was revolutionizing the industry, approaching Sterling Industries' market share in certain sectors. Each achievement felt bittersweet. Pride in her success mingled with regret that she couldn't share it with Ashwell. Luna's second birthday party had been a small affair. Family, close friends and employees who had become like family. Her daughter had charmed everyone, showing off her growing vocabulary and impeccable manners. She'd even given a tiny speech, Thank you for coming to my party. Practiced for days until each word was perfect. Just like her father preparing for board meetings, Alitzel had thought, then pushed the comparison away. The photographs from that day covered one wall of their Boston townhouse, Luna in a princess dress, surrounded by her beloved elephants, blowing out candles with the same determined expression Alitzel had seen on Ashwell's face countless times. One evening, after a particularly successful client meeting, Alitzel found herself opening her laptop to Sterling's website. Ashwell's profile photo hadn't changed. Same compelling grey eyes, same subtle half-smile that used to make her heart race, still did if she was honest with herself. Luna toddled over, pointing at the screen. "Who's that?" The innocent question nearly broke her. How could she explain to her daughter that this man who shared her eyes, her analytical mind, her determination, was her father, that he didn't know about her because of choices made in anger and fear? "A very important person," she said finally, closing the laptop. "Like Mama?" Luna asked, climbing into her lap. "No, me Luna," Alitzel kissed her daughter's dark curls. "Not as important as you." That night, after Luna was asleep, Alitzel found herself on the balcony of their townhouse, staring at the same moon that had witnessed so many crucial moments in her life. The night she'd first kissed Ashwell in Central Park, the night she'd fled New York with a broken heart, the night Luna was born. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Sterling Industries announces major East Coast expansion, Boston office to open under CEO's direct supervision. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Boston was her territory now, her safe haven. The thought of Ashwell here, possibly running into him at industry events, seeing him across crowded rooms at client meetings. But worse was the thought of him seeing Luna. Their daughter had his eyes, his mannerisms, his way of looking at the world. One glance would be enough, he'd know. And then what? Her phone buzzed again. "Looking forward to being neighbors. We have a lot to catch up on." Alitzel blocked the number immediately, but her hands were shaking. She'd worked so hard to build this new life, to protect Luna from the complications of her past. Now it felt like the carefully constructed walls were crumbling. In her bedroom, Luna slept peacefully, one arm wrapped around her favorite elephant, the other flung out in the same way Ashwell used to sleep. The moonlight painted silver patterns on her face, highlighting features that became more like her father's every day. "I'm sorry," Alitzel whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was apologizing to her daughter or to Ashwell. Maybe both. Tomorrow she would need to be strong again. The successful CEO, the devoted mother, the woman who had built an empire from the ashes of betrayal. But tonight she allowed herself to remember, to regret, to wonder what might have been if trust hadn't been broken and lies hadn't driven them apart. The moon continued its journey across the sky, silent witness to another chapter in their story. In her crib, Luna smiled in her sleep, dreaming perhaps of elephants, unaware that her world was about to change forever. Because Ashwell Prince was coming to Boston, and some secrets couldn't stay hidden in a city where memories lurked around every corner and grey eyes held stories yet to be told. Chapter 8. Little Blessings. Luna Blessing came into the world on a night when the full moon hung low and bright over Boston Harbor, its light streaming through the hospital windows like a silver blessing. Alitzel had chosen the name for that moon, so like the one that had witnessed her first kiss with Ashwell in Central Park. Though she'd never tell her daughter that story. Now, watching her 2-year-old daughter chase butterflies in the public garden, Alitzel couldn't help but see echoes of her father in every gesture. Luna had inherited Ashwell's analytical mind. evident in the way she carefully observed the world around her. She would spend hours arranging her blocks by color and size, making patterns that showed an understanding of order far beyond her years. "Mama, look!" Luna called out, her storm-grey eyes sparkling with excitement as she pointed to a swan boat gliding across the pond. Those eyes, Ashwell's eyes, never failed to catch Alitzel off guard, especially in moments like these when they shone with the same curiosity she'd fallen in love with years ago. "Yes, mi amor," Alitzel answered, adjusting the little girl's sun hat. "Would you like to ride one?" Luna nodded enthusiastically, her dark curls bouncing. She had Alitzel's hair and smile, but her expressions, the way she tilted her head when considering something new, those were all Ashwell. As they waited in line for the swan boats, Alitzel's phone buzzed. Another email from Ashwell, his third this week. "The Boston office opens next month. I've seen your daughter in the park. She's beautiful, Alitzel. Just like her mother. How long did you think you could keep this secret?" Her heart stopped. The phone nearly slipped from her trembling fingers as she reread the message. He knew. Somehow he knew. "Mama?" Luna tugged at her sundress. "Are you okay?" Alitzel forced a smile. "Of course, mi Luna. Just a work message." But her mind was racing. How had he seen them? Had he been watching, following them? The public garden was her sanctuary with Luna, their special place for weekend adventures. The thought of him observing them there made her feel violated, exposed. Another message arrived. "She has my eyes, doesn't she? We need to talk. Now." "Lo siento, mi amor," Alitzel said, kneeling to Luna's level. "Mama needs to make an important call. Would you like to go get ice cream with Abuela instead?" Luna's face lit up at the mention of ice cream, easily distracted from the disappointment of missing the swan boats. Alitzel texted her mother, who arrived within minutes, the benefits of living in the same neighborhood. Once Luna was safely off with her grandmother, Alitzel found a quiet bench and dialed the number she'd sworn never to use again. "How dare you?" she hissed when he answered. "How dare you spy on us?" "Spy on you?" Ashwell's voice was tight with barely controlled emotion. "How dare I?" "You've kept my daughter from me for 2 years, Alitzel. 2 years of firsts I'll never get back. First steps, first words, first. You lost any right to those moments when you betrayed my trust," she cut him off. "When you used our relationship to steal my work. When you lied about Victoria. When you—" "I never lied about Victoria," he interrupted. "The engagement was over months before I met you. And yes, I used your ideas in Asia, because they were brilliant, because they worked, because I was proud of you. I gave you full credit in all the internal documents, which you'd know if you'd let me explain instead of running away." "I didn't run away," she said through gritted teeth. "I protected myself, and now I'm protecting my daughter." "Our daughter," he corrected softly. "She's our daughter, Alitzel, and she deserves to know her father." The words hit her like physical blows. She watched a young family pass by, father, mother, child, all laughing together, sharing a moment she'd deliberately denied her own daughter. "The company newsletter," he continued when she remained silent. "Last month's feature on working mothers at Blessing Digital. There was a photo of you with Luna at the company picnic. I knew the moment I saw her. Those eyes, the way she holds herself. She's mine, isn't she?" Alitzel closed her eyes, remembering that photo. Luna had been helping her judge the 3-legged race, perched on her hip like a little queen, surveying her domain. She'd been so proud of that picture, of showing other women they could be mothers and CEOs. Now it felt like evidence of her greatest deception. "Yes," she whispered finally. "She's yours." The sound he made was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "I want to meet her." "No." "Alitzel, be reasonable. I'm her father. I have rights." "Rights?" She laughed bitterly. "Like the right to manipulate people who trust you? The right to build your success on other people's ideas, those rights. That's not fair, and you know it." His voice was steel now. "I've respected your space for 2 years. I've watched from afar as you built your company, as you made a name for yourself. I've been proud of you, worried for you, missing you every single day. But this, keeping my child from me, that's crossing a line. Don't threaten me, Ashwell. I'm not threatening you. I'm stating a fact. I want to know my daughter. We can do this the easy way, you and I talking like rational adults, setting up a meeting on your terms. Or we can do it through lawyers. Your choice." The bench suddenly felt cold despite the summer sun. He was right. Legally, morally, he had every right to know his child. But the thought of letting him into Luna's life, of sharing her precious daughter with the man who'd broken her heart. "She asks about you," Alitzel admitted quietly. "Not directly. She's too young to understand. But she sees other kids with their fathers. She watches them at the playground. Sometimes she gets this look in her eyes." "Let me meet her," he pleaded. "Please, Alitzel. I've missed so much already." She thought about Luna's upcoming ballet recital, how her daughter had asked if she could invite a daddy, like her friend Emma had. She thought about future father-daughter dances, graduation ceremonies, weddings. Could she really deny Luna these moments out of fear and pride? "One meeting," she said finally, "supervised, at my office. If it goes well, we can discuss next steps." "Thank you," he breathed. "When?" "Next week, Tuesday afternoon. I'll have my assistant send you the details." "Alitzel?" His voice stopped her before she could hang up. "I never stopped loving you, either of you, even before I knew about her." She ended the call without responding, her vision blurring with unshed tears. Across the pond, the swan boats continued their gentle circuits, families laughing together in the summer sun. Soon, her own carefully constructed world would shift on its axis as Luna met her father for the first time. Her phone buzzed again, a photo this time. She opened it with trembling fingers to find a picture of herself and Luna from last weekend, playing in this very garden. They were building a sand castle together, Luna's face scrunched in concentration exactly like her father's when he tackled a complex problem. Another message followed. "She's perfect, Alitzel. Just like her mother." She should have been angry at the surveillance, the invasion of privacy. Instead, she found herself studying the photo, seeing them as Ashwell must have seen them, mother and daughter, so alike and yet Luna carrying so much of him in her small frame. That evening, as she tucked Luna into bed, her daughter asked her usual question. "Mama, tell me about the moon I was born under." It was their nightly ritual, this story of Luna's birth. Usually, Alitzel kept it simple, a beautiful full moon, a perfect night, a precious gift. But tonight, looking into her daughter's storm-grey eyes, she found herself adding to the tale. "The moon that night," she said softly, "was just like another moon years ago when your mama danced in the rain and learned what love feels like. It was watching over us both, me Luna, making sure you would have your father's eyes to see the world with such wonder." "Like the moon watches the swan boats?" Luna asked sleepily. "Yes, mi amor. Just like that." As her daughter drifted off to sleep, Alitzel wondered if she was doing the right thing. Tuesday would change everything. For Luna, for herself, for the careful life she'd built away from Ashwell Prince and all the complications he brought with him. But looking at Luna's peaceful face, seeing Ashwell's features softened in sleep, she knew she couldn't keep them apart forever. Some bonds transcended broken trust and stolen ideas. Some loves, like that between a father and daughter, deserved a chance to bloom, even if they grew from the soil of past mistakes. She just hoped her heart could survive watching Ashwell fall in love with their daughter, knowing she still loved him despite everything. Chapter 9. Truth Unraveled. The Boston Children's Hospital Charity Gala transformed the historic stateroom into a wonderland of crystal and candlelight. 60 stories above the city, floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the harbor, but Alitzel's attention was fixed on something far more precious. Luna, dressed in a tiny powder-blue party dress, played with other children in the supervised activity area, her dark curls bouncing as she built elaborate block structures. Alitzel hadn't planned on attending, but as Boston's fastest-growing digital consultancy, Blessing Digital couldn't afford to miss such a prestigious networking event. She certainly hadn't expected Ashwell to be there, though his presence was inevitable now that Sterling Industries' Boston office was opening. Their supervised meeting the previous Tuesday had shaken her more than she cared to admit. Watching Ashwell with Luna, seeing their identical expressions of concentration, hearing their matching laughs, had awakened feelings she'd thought safely buried. Now she watched him work the room with his usual grace, though his eyes kept drifting to the children's area where Luna played. He'd respected their agreement about public interactions, maintaining a professional distance that somehow hurt more than confrontation would have. He's always been good with children. The voice behind her turned her blood to ice. Victoria Blackwood stood there in designer elegance, champagne glass in hand, wearing the same sharp smile from 2 years ago. But now there was something else in her expression, a desperation poorly masked by bravado. "What are you doing here?" Alitzel fought to keep her voice steady. "Supporting children's health care, of course." Victoria's smile widened, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Though I must admit, seeing your daughter was an unexpected bonus. She looks just like her father, doesn't she? Those distinctive Prince family eyes." The implied threat made Alitzel's maternal instincts flare. "Stay away from my daughter." "Or what?" Victoria sipped her champagne with affected casualness. "You'll keep her from her father? Oh, wait. You've already done that, tell me. Does she ask about him? Does she wonder why other children have daddies and she doesn't? You don't know anything about my family." "I know everything about your family." Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "I know how you fled New York with Ashwell's child. I know how you built your company using Sterling's stolen strategies. I know about the trust fund you set up in Luna's name. Clever, using your mother's maiden name on the paperwork." Horror crept up Alitzel's spine. How long had Victoria been watching them? What was her endgame? A commotion from the children's area drew their attention. Luna had wandered away from the group, making a beeline for Ashwell. Before either woman could move, the little girl had tugged on his pant leg. "Block Tower Man," Luna said clearly, her storm-grey eyes, his eyes, looking up at him with recognition. "Will you build with me again?" The room seemed to hold its breath. Ashwell knelt down to Luna's level, his face transforming with a tenderness that made Alitzel's heart ache. "Hello, Luna," he said gently. "I'd love to build with you." Victoria's laugh was brittle. "How touching, but it won't last. You see, I've already sent the board a detailed report about your creative approach to building your company. Using Sterling's proprietary information, poaching clients. The fact that you kept Ashwell's child from him just adds a personal touch to the professional misconduct." "That's a lie." Alitzel's voice shook with fury. "I built my company from scratch, without using any Sterling information. Truth is relative, dear, especially when backed by carefully crafted evidence." Victoria pulled a USB drive from her clutch. "Everything's here. The manipulated documents, the false timestamps, the fabricated emails. I spent 2 years building this case, making sure it would destroy both your reputation and your relationship with Ashwell completely. Why? Why go to such lengths?" "Because you ruined everything." Victoria's mask shattered completely. Ashwell and I had an understanding. The engagement was a business arrangement, merging old money with new innovation. Then you came along with your genuine passion and your brilliant ideas, making him believe in love again. You made him want more than a convenient merger of assets. Victoria. Ashwell's voice cut through the tension like steel. He stood behind them, Luna perched on his hip as if she belonged there. His expression was thunderous. I think it's time you showed Alitzel what's really on that drive. What? Alitzel looked between them, confusion warring with hope. Show her, Ashwell commanded. Show her the original documents, the ones proving you doctored those implementation plans. Show her the board minutes revealing how you orchestrated this whole scheme. Show her the blackmail attempts you made, threatening to destroy her reputation if I didn't agree to remarry you. Victoria's hand trembled as she held out the drive. It doesn't matter anymore. He was already too far gone, too in love with you to see reason. Everything's here. Proof of my manipulation, my lies, my desperate attempts to hold on to what I thought I deserved. All this time. Alitzel's voice broke as realization dawned. The stolen ideas, the harassment claims, were all fabricated, Ashwell finished. I tried to tell you that night at the gala and after, but you were gone before I could explain. Then when I found out about Luna. His voice caught as he looked at their daughter, still contentedly playing with his tie. I'd already lost you. I couldn't bear to lose her too. You sent her the implementation documents, Victoria admitted bitterly. Full credit for every strategy, every innovation. I intercepted them, changed them, made it look like he'd stolen your work. It was perfect. Playing on your fears about being used, about not earning your position. I just never expected you to leave New York entirely. Luna chose that moment to reach for Alitzel, transferring easily from Ashwell's arms to her mother's. The simple action, their daughter bridging the space between them, felt heavy with symbolism. I would never have stolen your ideas, Ashwell said softly. I was in awe of your mind, your creativity, every late-night discussion, every shared strategy session. They weren't about taking your work, they were about watching you shine. Victoria laughed bitterly. And now you have everything. The perfect little family, the successful company, the fairy tale ending, while I'm left with nothing but evidence of my own desperation. She turned to leave, but Ashwell's voice stopped her. Victoria, the board will hear about this, all of it. I know, she said quietly, but I've already lost everything that mattered. What's a career compared to that? As Victoria disappeared into the crowd, Luna looked between her parents with innocent curiosity. Mama, why are you crying? Alitzel touched her cheek, finding it wet. Because sometimes truth can be more beautiful than dreams, me Luna. And sometimes, Ashwell added, moving closer to wrap an arm around them both, what we think we've lost is just waiting to be found again. Looking up into his eyes, the same eyes she saw every day in their daughter's face, Alitzel felt walls crumbling, truth replacing lies, love healing old wounds. We have so much to talk about, she whispered. We have time, he replied, pressing a kiss to Luna's dark curls. All the time in the world. Luna snuggled between them, content in the circle of their arms, unaware that her simple act of recognizing her father had brought down the last barriers between them. Above the city, the moon emerged from behind clouds, blessing this new beginning with its silver light. Sometimes truth doesn't shatter our world, but rebuilds it, stronger and more beautiful than before. And sometimes love, like their precocious daughter, simply refuses to be bound by the walls we build to protect our hearts. Chapter 10. Healing Hearts. She has your eyes. Alitzel's whispered words broke the reverent silence as she and Ashwell watched Luna sleeping in her princess-themed bedroom. It had been 3 weeks since the charity gala revelation. 3 weeks of careful steps toward healing, of learning to be a family. They stood in the doorway of Alitzel's Boston townhouse, watching their daughter's peaceful slumber. Luna clutched her beloved stuffed elephant, now joined by an entire menagerie of plush animals from her father, while the full moon cast silver light through her window. "But she has your spirit," Ashwell replied softly, his hand finding Alitzel's in the darkness. "That same fire that made you throw a stapler at me the day we met." She laughed quietly, letting herself lean against him slightly. Physical contact was still new, still charged with memory and possibility. "I still can't believe you remember that day so clearly. How could I forget?" His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. "The most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Half-dressed in my conference room, defending herself with office supplies. I fell in love with you right then, though I didn't know it yet." They retreated to the living room, leaving Luna's door slightly ajar. The past weeks had been a delicate dance of reconciliation. Coffee meetings to discuss Luna's schedule, dinners that started as co-parenting discussions and evolved into deeper conversations. Moments like this, where the old chemistry flickered to life despite their best efforts at restraint. "I've been going through the files on Victoria's drive," Alitzel said, settling onto the couch. "All this time, I thought I was so wrong about everything." Ashwell sat beside her, leaving careful space between them. "We both made mistakes. I should have seen what Victoria was planning, should have fought harder to explain when you left. Would I have listened?" She turned to face him, drawing her legs up under her. "I was so hurt, so convinced that everything between us had been a lie when I found out I was pregnant. Why didn't you tell me?" The pain in his voice made her heart ache. "Even if you hated me, even if you never wanted to see me again, Luna was mine too." "I know." Tears pricked at her eyes. "At first I was just trying to protect myself, my heart. Then as she grew inside me, I told myself I was protecting her, from scandal, from complications, from me," he finished quietly. "From the man I thought you were," she corrected. "The man Victoria made me believe in. Not the real you. The one who builds block towers for hours, who knows all the voices in Luna's favorite bedtime stories, who looks at our daughter like she's the most precious thing in the universe." Ashwell's eyes shone with emotion in the dim light. "She is precious. So precious. Every time I look at her, I see all the moments I missed. Her first steps, her first words." "Elephant," Alitzel smiled through her tears. That was her first word. She saw one at the zoo and wouldn't stop pointing and saying it. Now look at her room. It's like an elephant sanctuary in there. "Tell me more," he asked softly. "About her firsts, about the little things. I want to know everything." So she did. She told him about Luna's first smile, how she'd been colicky for weeks until they discovered she liked the sound of rain. She described the first time Luna walked, tottering across this very living room into her grandmother's arms. She shared stories of first foods, first tantrums, first laughs. With each story, they moved closer on the couch, the space between them shrinking like ice melting in spring. Ashwell drank in every detail, occasionally asking questions or sharing observations about traits Luna had inherited from each of them. "She problem-solves like you," Alitzel noted, "the way she'll sit and study something before trying it. Last week, she spent an hour figuring out how to reach her favorite book on the high shelf. Instead of asking for help, she constructed an elaborate pathway using her toys as stepping stones." "But she negotiates like you," Ashwell countered, grinning. "Yesterday at the park, she convinced me that ice cream was essential for proper swing technique. Her argument was very persuasive." They laughed together, and suddenly Alitzel was aware of how close they'd gotten. Their shoulders touched, her knee pressed against his thigh, their hands nearly brushing on the couch between them. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered, the words escaping before she could catch them. "Even when I thought you'd betrayed me, even when I was furious and hurt, I never stopped." Ashwell's breath caught. Slowly, giving her time to pull away, he reached up to cup her cheek. I never stopped either. Not for a single day. Seeing you with Luna, watching you build your company, becoming this incredible mother. It just made me love you more. The moonlight streaming through the windows cast silver shadows across his face, reminding her of another moonlit night, another moment of truth between them. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, wiping away tears she hadn't realized were falling. We can't go back, she said softly. Too much has happened. We're different people now. I don't want to go back, he replied. I want to go forward. With you, with Luna, building something new, something stronger because we know what it's like to lose each other. She leaned into his touch, her heart racing. I'm still scared. Of what? Of trusting again, of letting you in only to have my heart broken, of Luna getting hurt if things don't work out. I can't promise we'll never hurt each other, he said honestly, but I can promise to never lie to you, to never take you for granted, to spend every day trying to be worthy of you and our daughter. Their faces were inches apart now, the air between them charged with possibility. Ashwell, she breathed, and it was both a question and an answer. He kissed her then, gentle and sweet, like he was discovering her all over again. Her hands found their way into his hair as the kiss deepened, becoming something hungry and healing all at once. Years of pain and longing poured into the connection, washing away in waves of renewed love. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Ashwell rested his forehead against hers. Stay with me, she whispered, echoing his words from that rainy night so long ago. Not just for Luna, not just for tonight. Stay with me for all of it, the hard times and the joy, the ordinary moments and the extraordinary ones. Forever, he promised, sealing it with another kiss. However long it takes to make up for lost time, to rebuild trust, to make you believe in us again. I'm not letting you go this time, Alitzel blessing, you or our little moon. As if on cue, Luna's voice called out sleepily from her room. Mama? Daddy? They shared a smile, hearts swelling at hearing their daughter use both titles so naturally. Coming, me Luna, Alitzel called back, standing and pulling Ashwell with her. They found Luna sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes. Bad dream, she mumbled, reaching for both of them. Together they settled on either side of her small bed, creating a cocoon of family warmth. Ashwell began telling a story about a brave little elephant who found her way home, while Alitzel stroked Luna's hair. Their free hands met over their daughter's head, fingers intertwining naturally. Looking at them in the moonlight, Ashwell's gentle expression as he wove the tale, Luna's sleepy smile as she cuddled between them. Alitzel felt the last pieces of her heart click into place. This was what healing looked like, not an absence of scars, but a beauty that grew from them, stronger and more precious for having been broken and reformed. I love you, she mouthed to Ashwell over Luna's now sleeping form. I love you both, he mouthed back, his eyes shining with tears and joy and promises of forever. Outside, the moon watched over them, as it had on so many important nights in their story, but this time it saw not two hearts dancing around each other, but three hearts beating in perfect harmony, a family healing, a love story finding its way home. Chapter 11. New Beginnings. The Boston Public Garden had never looked more enchanting. September had painted the trees in shades of gold and crimson, and thousands of tiny lights twinkled in their branches like earthbound stars. White chairs lined a flower-strewn aisle, and an elegant arch draped with roses and ivy marked the spot where Alitzel Blessing would become Alitzel Prince. In a tent set up near the swan boats, Alitzel stood before a full-length mirror, her mother making final adjustments to her gown. The ivory-laced dress was a masterpiece of simplicity and elegance, hugging her curves before flowing into a gentle train. Her dark hair was swept up, dotted with tiny pearl pins that caught the light. like dewdrops. "Mama, you look like a princess!" Luna burst into the tent, her own flower girl dress swishing around her legs. At 3 years old, she was the perfect combination of both her parents, Ashwell's thoughtful eyes and Alitzel's bright smile. "Careful with the flowers, me Luna," Alitzel laughed as her daughter twirled, rose petals flying from her basket. The past 6 months since their reconciliation had been like a dream. Ashwell moving to Boston permanently, their families blending seamlessly, and a proposal that had brought them full circle. He'd asked her to marry him in the conference room where they first met, getting down on one knee among scattered office supplies. "Since you threw your heart at me along with that stapler," he'd said, "it seems only right to make it official here." "Mama!" Luna's voice brought her back to the present. "Is Daddy nervous too?" "Why do you think Daddy's nervous, sweetie?" "He keeps practicing his words. I heard him in the mirror this morning. 'I promise to love you forever and ever and ever.'" Luna mimicked her father's serious tone perfectly. Alitzel's heart melted. They'd written their own vows, keeping them secret from each other. She touched the folded paper tucked into her bouquet, words she'd rewritten a dozen times trying to capture the magnitude of their journey. "5 minutos," her mother announced, shooing Luna out to join the other attendants. She turned to Alitzel, eyes shining with tears. "Mihija, you look like a dream." "Mama, don't cry," Alitzel said, feeling her own eyes well up. "You'll make me ruin my makeup." "Happy tears only," her mother promised, adjusting Alitzel's veil one last time. "Your father would be so proud today." The mention of her late father made Alitzel's throat tight. He'd passed away when she was in college, but she'd included subtle tributes to him throughout the wedding. His favorite flowers in her bouquet, a photo charm on her bracelet, the Mexican wedding traditions he'd always wanted for her. Music began playing outside, the string quartet starting the processional. Alitzel took a deep breath, checking her reflection one final time. The woman in the mirror looked radiant, glowing with happiness and love. Her mother slipped out to take her seat, and Alitzel had a moment alone. She touched the small bump just beginning to show beneath her dress. Their secret, not yet shared with anyone. Another little blessing, due in spring. The wedding coordinator appeared at the tent entrance. "Ready?" Alitzel nodded, gathering her bouquet. As she stepped out into the autumn sunshine, the assembled guests rose. But she saw only Ashwell standing beneath the arch, looking at her like she was the sun and stars combined. Luna led the procession, spreading rose petals with careful concentration. When she reached the front, she broke protocol to hug Ashwell's legs before taking her place, making the guests laugh softly. Each step down the aisle felt like walking through their story, past the spot where they'd danced in the rain, near the bench where they'd shared secrets and dreams, under trees that had witnessed their love growing despite every obstacle. When she reached him, Ashwell's eyes were suspiciously bright. "You're stunning," he whispered, taking her hands in his. The officiant began the ceremony, but Alitzel barely heard the words. She was lost in Ashwell's eyes, in the warmth of his hands holding hers, in the perfect rightness of this moment. Then came time for their vows. Ashwell went first, his voice steady, despite the emotion clear on his face. "Alitzel, my love, my heart, mother of our precious Luna and keeper of my soul." Our story began with a stapler and a coffee stain, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. Every step, every mistake, every triumph led us here. You challenge me to be better, love me despite my flaws, and make me believe in second chances. I promise to spend every day earning the trust you've given me again, to be the father our daughter deserves, and to love you with every breath in my body. You are my North Star, my home, my everything. I love you, not just until death parts us, but for all the lifetimes that follow. Tears flowed freely down Alitzel's cheeks as she unfolded her own vows. Ashwell, my unexpected love, my partner, my heart's home. They say time heals all wounds, but love, real love, transforms them into something beautiful. You've taught me that trust, once rebuilt, can be stronger than before. That family isn't just blood, but choice and commitment and daily acts of love. I promise to face every challenge by your side, to build our future together brick by brick, to love you through storms and sunshine. Thank you for giving me Luna, for showing me what real partnership looks like, for loving me enough to wait until I found my way back to you. I choose you, today and every day, in this life and whatever comes after. Luna, who'd been watching solemnly, suddenly piped up, I promise too. I promise to love Mama and Daddy forever and ever. The spontaneous addition made everyone laugh through their tears. Ashwell reached down to squeeze her hand, including her in the moment perfectly. The exchange of rings was almost anticlimactic after the emotional vows, but Alitzel's hands still trembled as she slipped the platinum band onto Ashwell's finger. His matched her engagement ring, a stunning sapphire surrounded by diamonds, chosen because it reminded him of her eyes. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Ashwell cupped her face with infinite tenderness, wiping away happy tears with his thumbs before kissing her. The guests applauded, Luna cheered, and Alitzel felt her heart might burst with joy. The reception was a blur of dancing, toasting, and celebration. Luna insisted on giving an impromptu speech, telling everyone how her daddy built the best block towers and her mama told the best bedtime stories, and now they could all live together forever and ever. As the sun set, casting golden light across the garden, Ashwell led Alitzel to a quiet spot near the water. Mrs. Prince, he murmured, pulling her close. How does it feel? Perfect, she sighed, resting her head on his chest. Though I have something to tell you. Oh, she took his hand, placing it on her slight bump. We're going to need a bigger block tower. His eyes widened, then filled with tears of joy. Really? When? Spring. I found out last week. I wanted to wait until today to tell you. He kissed her deeply, pouring all his love and happiness into it. When they parted, he knelt to press a gentle kiss to her stomach. Hello, little one. I promise I won't miss a single moment this time. Luna found them then, demanding a dance with both her parents. They swayed together, a family of 3, soon to be 4, under the same moon that had witnessed every chapter of their love story. Later, as they drove away toward their honeymoon, Alitzel looked back at the garden where their story had come full circle. From broken trust to renewed love, from separation to reunion, from 2 hearts to a family bound by something stronger than any past pain. Happy? Ashwell asked, squeezing her hand. Beyond happy, she replied, thinking of their daughter sleeping peacefully at her grandmother's, of the new life growing inside her, of all the chapters yet to be written in their story. They had come so far from that first meeting, the stapler-throwing marketing coordinator and the CEO who fell in love with her fire. Now they were something more, partners, parents, soulmates who had found their way back to each other against all odds. The moon rose over Boston Harbor, full and bright like the night Luna was born, like the night they first kissed, like so many significant moments in their journey. But tonight, it witnessed something new. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not a farewell, but a promise of forever. And somewhere in the garden, a stapler sat among the wedding gifts. Ashwell's idea of a joke and a tribute to where it all began. Chapter 12. Forever After. Their wedding night was everything romance novels promised and more. The presidential suite at the Boston Harbor Hotel offered breathtaking views of the water, but Ashwell and Alitzel only had eyes for each other. Years of separation, months of rebuilding trust, and weeks of wedding preparation had led to this moment of perfect unity. Mrs. Prince, Ashwell murmured, helping her out of her wedding dress with reverent hands. "I've waited so long to call you that. I still can't believe you proposed with a stapler." Alitzel laughed, the sound turning into a gasp as his lips found her neck. "Well, it worked, didn't it?" He grinned against her skin. "Though I have to admit, ducking was my first instinct when I got down on one knee. Old habits die hard." Their laughter turned to passionate kisses, clothes falling away as they rediscovered each other. The moonlight streaming through the windows painted silver patterns on their skin as they made love, gentle at first, then with increasing urgency, pouring years of longing into each touch. Later, wrapped in luxurious sheets, Alitzel traced patterns on Ashwell's chest. "I can't wait to tell Luna about the baby." "She'll be thrilled," he agreed, "though she might try to name them Elephant." "Don't even joke about that. She's persuasive enough to actually convince us." The next morning, they found a surprise waiting in their suite's living room. A gift basket from the Sterling Industries board, filled with office supplies. Each item had a note attached. The stapler, for when you need to make a point. Paper clips, for keeping things together. Rubber bands, for flexibility in marriage. Whiteout, for fresh starts. A Deluxe coffee maker, for avoiding future stains. "They'll never let us live down how we met, will they?" Alitzel laughed, examining the golden stapler with its engraved wedding date. "Never," Ashwell confirmed, pulling her close, "though I have to admit it's a unique How I Met Your Mother story for Luna." 6 months later, their son arrived, thankfully not named Elephant, though Luna had campaigned hard for it. They named him Leo, for the strength he showed arriving 3 weeks early, eager to join their family. Luna proved to be the most attentive big sister, treating Leo like her favorite new doll. She'd sit by his crib for hours, reading him stories from her picture books and explaining the complex politics of her stuffed animal kingdom. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Ashwell split his time between Sterling's Boston and New York offices, while Alitzel's consulting firm continued to grow. They found balance between work and family, their past struggles making them appreciate every moment together. Their home became a place of laughter and love. Family dinner conversations were a delightful mix of business strategy and preschool politics. Luna would solemnly inform them about playground mergers and acquisition of toys, while Leo contributed his opinions through enthusiastic babbling. One evening, as they prepared for bed, Alitzel found Ashwell in his home office, surrounded by office supplies. "What are you doing?" she asked, amused. "Testing staplers," he replied seriously. "Luna has a school presentation tomorrow. I need to make sure she has the perfect one for maximum dramatic effect if needed." "You're ridiculous," she laughed, kissing him. "Our daughter is not going to throw staplers at her classmates." "Of course not. But if her teacher gets too critical of her block tower engineering—" He waggled his eyebrows, making her laugh harder. Their love story became legend at Sterling Industries. New employees were given a safety briefing about proper office supply etiquette, and the conference room where they first met was unofficially renamed the Stapler Suite. Victoria, in an unexpected twist, sent them a wedding gift, a crystal paperweight with a note reading, "Some things are better left unthrown." They donated it to the company museum, along with the original stapler from their first meeting. Years passed, filled with moments both ordinary and extraordinary. Luna grew into a confident young girl who combined her mother's fire with her father's charm. Leo developed a talent for engineering, though his medium of choice was Lego blocks rather than office supplies. On their 5th anniversary, Ashwell surprised Alitzel with a recreation of their first encounter. The same conference room, the same coffee cart, even the same type of silk blouse. This time, though, when she threw the stapler, he caught it. "Getting slow in your old age," he teased. "Or maybe I just don't want to hurt you anymore," she replied softly, pulling him down for a kiss. Their love had been tested by pride, prejudice, and paper products, but like the finest gold, it had emerged stronger for having gone through the fire. They'd learned that sometimes the heart must break to grow larger, that trust rebuilt can be stronger than trust untested, and that the best love stories aren't perfect, they're real. Luna, now wise beyond her years, summed it up best in her school essay titled, "How My Parents Fell in Love." My daddy always says that when you throw your heart at someone, you should aim well. My mama says sometimes you have to throw a stapler first to get their attention. I think love is like office supplies, sometimes messy, sometimes organized, but always necessary for getting important things done. P.S. Mama says I am not allowed to test this theory at school. Daddy snuck me a plastic stapler anyway, just in case. The end. Though really, it was just the beginning of their forever after, filled with love, laughter, and a lifetime supply of carefully secured office supplies. Subscribe if you enjoyed.